It comes on. Right. Okay. So, evening, everyone, and welcome to TMA Friday Night Live. This is the Pidge, and I'm joined by a man that needs no introduction, an absolute Watford legend. We've gone big in this one today, guys. It's Mr. Luther Blissett. So, I've said once again, good evening, Luther. Thank you ever so much for chatting to me.
My real pleasure to be a serious pleasure to be here as well.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's
I'm
absolutely
thoroughly impressed with your backdrop behind
Thank you.
Really. That is stunning. That.
So Gibbo last week said he still this shirt's behind, so he had to put his Premier League one on. So I went, oh God, right. I said that's the interview over. I said he's upstage me now. That's it. Right. Okay. So straight onto it. Firstly, I asked you before, but you've been a very busy man along, and I'm helping out. Going to the hospitals, just spread, bringing up fans, just spreading some good cheer in these difficult times. So that's one thing from me. Thank you very much.
But it was good for me as well to do that. It was beneficial for myself to do that, because let's not forget, we're all in lockdown. We're all sort of isolated. And the thing what you don't want to be when you're sort of isolating, I should say, is get isolated from anybody. So this enabled me to keep that contact with a lot of people that, I'd spoken to maybe briefly, and have a good conversation with them on the phone. And it helped them, and it surely helped me. I know that.
Yeah, no. Like I say, it's just a phone call. It's amazing what something like that brings to people. And
incredible what it does. And the other thing is when you do it on FaceTime as well with people's phones, and you can actually see them and they can see you. The well-being that gives you, that really good feeling it gives you, because you can see their eyes and you can see them smiling, and it really brings the conversation and everything together really to life. And I think it was just amazing. It was a great time with all the awful things going on. It was a good time being able to talk to people, and they reminisce about stuff, and I've forgotten about that, and then we spoke about it. Yeah, it was great.
Oh no! I'm fortunate to bump into Jono a lot of the time at the club, and I've told him about. I mean, we've had many arguments, and he'll still go on about. I still think his best goal was Wolves back in '95, '94 time actually, and he always says Bristol City, but he's always got time to chat to people as well, and. Like you said, when people come up and mention something about, say, like your career or a goal that you scored, and you sort of think, hang on, how do you remember that? Where were you when that was scored? And, I bet that gives you a bit of joy as well, because people remember certain goals as well.
It does. And the thing is, sometimes you remember them slightly different as well. It's like, really? I can't remember it like that. There's been some really good moments when we'll be spoken about. And I think one of the most spoken about goals or occasions would be 78 at Manchester United, and the number of people to this day, I'm thinking that stadium must have held 250,000 people because it just seemed that everybody was there from all different ages, whether there were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, people bunking off school, people bunking off work and everything. It was just incredible. It really was.
Yeah, I'm 39, but I claim to be there as well. So
I actually remember seeing you there behind the goal. I remember that.
There we go. And I was only wasn't even born, but I still had the mohawk. So the record it's still recognisable back then. But no, my dad's my uncle, and always told me stories of that game, and I reckon one of them will claim to be there. So. Amongst was it hundreds of goals that you scored that I've got here, so I didn't really need Wikipedia, but it stitched me up with Jono, because I don't know why I never asked him how good he was doing at Wealdstone, and I introduced him as the Wealdstone was it technical director. He goes, not anymore, and oh
no. Yeah, I can imagine what his reaction was.
Oh God, he just laughed. He thought it too, because he knew I got it from Wikipedia. I usually ask him about everything like that, and just before we go on and say, oh, by the way, but it just made it extra funny, that part, and I thought I might edit that out or I might not, but I should have kept it as an added extra little bonus, like they do with bonus DVDs. Put that in there. But like you said, one of your favourite moments was the 78 at Man United. Everyone, even if you didn't go to that game, knows that or remembers it. and talks about that as one of the moments, a bit like Kaiserslautern
Yes.
game as well. That's another talked about. But out of special moments, so like I say, you mentioned the Man United one. Is there anything else, say even I'll throw this out to you, top three, possibly including your Man United one, that really stood out for you when you were at your time at Watford?
Well, yeah. Well, it goes without saying the Manchester United one,
Yeah.
especially the second goal, the actual winning goal, was because it's textbook the way things that we worked in training, and it worked an absolute treat that day. I think another one would be obviously getting my hat trick, which wasn't a hat trick because I actually scored 4 against Sunderland. We beat them 8-0. That was a very, very special day as well for me, because Graham had always been saying to me, you know, you're never going to get this hat trick, are you? You keep scoring 2s and 2s and 2s, you won't get the third one. And you know, he did actually say to me after the game, you know, you couldn't even get it right today. You had to end up scoring 4 rather than
Oh, brilliant.
I don't really know if that counts, he said to me after the game. So no, that was really special for doing that. But the game prior to that, when we played West Bromwich Albion, and we went top of the league that day, having beaten them 3-1, I think that also was a special one, because I scored a couple of good goals that day, and I think the third one was disallowed for offside or something, or whatever it was. And then otherwise I'd have got my hat trick that day. I'd have got it properly that day. So,
yeah, I bet he still picked you up on that, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be, I think those 2 would be 2, but there have been countless. There have been countless numbers, because of the way the team has played, and you know, some of the goals that we scored were quite amazing.
Well, your time with the great man GT, a lot of people said, and Gibbo said this as well, he was very simple in how he instructed you guys to play. You knew your jobs, a bit like similar around the same era as Cloughie, that Cloughie would say, like, do this, do this, do this. Very simple. You knew your jobs, and was Graham pretty much the same? Yeah,
Graham was fine. I mean, the first thing he sort of he organised us and said, this is how we're going to play. So, you know, we're gonna make the opposition really have to work. So that's why we ran channels and that sort of thing, and just simple things where one striker had to complement the other one. So if Ross was chasing somebody down towards the corner flag, my job was to make sure that whoever they couldn't pass the ball back to the goalkeeper. So we'd work as hard as each other everywhere over the pitch. So you complemented each other and understood where you needed to be. And just by making things as simple as that, so that you understood how hard players had to work in various positions, it helped to get us on the same wavelength. It got us to appreciate, I think, what the difficulties what each member of the team had in the position they were playing. So you did everything you could to make their job easier. That was what he did. And the other thing was, I see strikers go out on the pitch now, and I think to myself, I don't know how they could, you know, I went out and myself and Ross, and I demanded the ball to be played to me in areas where I wanted the ball, when I wanted it, not when they wanted to give it to me, when I wanted the ball. Because I think football has evolved, if you want to call it that way now. That midfield and players, they want to do all their stuff and play and all that. And the striker has to wait until they're ready to give him the ball. Whereas at Watford, it was the other way around. We wanted the ball early. We wanted it where we wanted it, when we wanted it. And that enabled us, I think, to put a lot of pressure on the opposition and create the opportunities that we did. And that was Graham's way, because he just wanted you to attack, get forward, get shots in, get crosses in, and people get on the end of it. And it made it easy for us to understand what he wanted, and we just did the best we could. And when it worked, it was quite incredible. It was phenomenal when it worked.
Yeah, I mean, he, in an interview, I believe, oh God, when was it now? I mean, early 80s, he said about, you know, we're not ashamed of what we are. We admit who we are, or what we are. You know, we play a certain way, and I think the commentator just over the interview at the time said, well, do you think this style, as they always called it, would work in the first division? And he said, well, the only habit we've got, or just quite, not exact quite, but he says the only habit we've got is winning. And if people all found, if this was so simple the way that we play, then I think everyone should be playing it. You know, and
that's right.
You know, like you said, it was very. They always called it direct, But it was very simple, but it got results. And that, I think that's what annoyed more people, that the fact that it was actually getting results, not the fact that it was the way we played.
Yeah, it was the fact that you win. But what people often missed about the way we played was a lot of things that we did, we copied teams that win a lot of football. And it was teams like Wolverhampton Wanderers in their time that used to win a lot of games. And the one sort of through the 80s that won all the time was Liverpool. And Liverpool, and they still do it now. They play, but I tell you what, they make you have to defend properly. And if you don't, you pick the ball out the back of the net. And that is the sort of things that we copied, the things that teams didn't like against them, and we didn't like against us. We tried to do that as often as we could against the opposition, and we really wasn't bothered about it because you'd play at go to certain grounds, and they would be just convinced we're going to show this lot, because they boot the ball and chase it, that we can outplay them. So worked in our favour because we would set them up because they were going to throw the ball out and then play through us. We'd set them up, throw the ball out, we'd squeeze and win the ball back and put it in the back of the net. And they'd say, right, we're still going to keep doing it. And they kept doing it because they felt they had a point to prove, which helped us a great deal.
Yeah, well, Callie mentioned as well, he's mentioned it a few times. We went to an after-dinner speech with him and Johnny Barnes as well. And he said that a lot of teams, especially when you went away, that are very intimidating to the referees. And then you got a lot more. Well, the home team certainly got a lot more based on how loud they were and what kind of crowd it was. And say, Liverpool was a prime example. They were a fantastic side, no doubt. But they also said that the big decisions would seem to go more the way to the away team, or the home team, sorry.
Yeah, but that's always been the way. And can we really say that it has changed significantly now? And especially when you're talking about teams at the top and teams at the bottom, because that scenario has never changed. The teams at the top will always get all the breaks. They'll always get all the little decisions. It always goes to them. And when you're struggling, that's why you're struggling, because those little breaks aren't going your way. They just keep the ball. You get the bounce of the ball. It comes off somebody. Did you see the Liverpool game yesterday?
No, I saw patches of it, but Man City they were the Man City that should have been throughout the whole season, I think.
It was, but if you'd watched the whole game, Liverpool probably could have been and should have been a couple of goals up before City scored. The ball just would not drop for them yesterday. Whether it's because they didn't have that edge to their game because it's one and whatever, I don't know, but there was opportunities, and you thought it just was not falling for them as it has done. So sometimes that's how it goes, and you have to play through that and work hard at making sure you bring it back round next time. So football is about, when it's not going well, that you keep doing all the things that you've always done that's got you success. But what you've got to do, you've got to work at those things even harder. That's what you need to do. And that's what we used to do. And it gets you through the sticky patches.
Yeah, I know you ventured into this. Another thing concerning you ventured into management with Cheshire a few years ago. And how much of a departure was that from saying that's your team, I've got to look after them, I've got coaches around me, to when you were working with GT and Kenny Jackett, where you were sort of, shall we say, under Graham? I know he never treated anyone like that, but you're under Graham and you were more sort of, here's the figurehead, and then we just coach the players. What was the juxtaposition as regards the management to the coaching? What sort of differences did you see?
It was exactly the same difference. There was no difference for me, because if you're the coach, quite often you are in charge of the players. You have your conversation with the manager, and says, and he'll say to you, yeah, work on this, this, and this, and this. And you put the sessions together and go out and do it. So for me, there was no difference, but except the only difference was I was putting the sessions together, and I was the one, going out and doing most of the sessions myself. So in that respect, it didn't change. The biggest difference that I found was the way that the players at that level, you have to work almost double hard at everything you did for them to understand what you're trying to do, because you're trying to make the game very simple for them. Yeah. And in fact, what they were quite often doing is making the game complicated. And you were trying to say, no, simplify it, just do this, this, and this. And I think the players that could grasp that, and the players that grasp that very quickly, they're the ones that go on and, people think, oh, look at them, because you do the simple things well. And all the other bits just come into place. And when you've got to do some of the other bits, you just do it because you're not bogged down in it. You can just react and do it. And I think for myself, when I was managing, I just tried to do that as much as possible. We had some success early on in the season, but I think it was when once your budgets get cut, then you no longer can pay the players what you want, and then players now can go and get this somewhere else.
Yeah.
Players leave, and then what do? You've got to deal with what you have, and that unfortunately was the main reason. It didn't go as well towards the end of the season, but up until then it was really good.
Yeah. When your hands are tied, it doesn't matter how good a coach you are, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, because the biggest thing you have to do, and I think if you look through the Premier League and you look in any league, if you don't carry a real threat, a real goal threat, before long the opposition stop worrying about you, and when they stop worrying about you, you have a major problem.
Yeah.
Because when they don't think you're going to hurt them, then they just focus everything on all the things they do. They don't think about it. Then they just naturally do what they do, and it's very difficult to stem the tide. And that has always been the way that I've tried to coach. So you try and make sure you've got a threat always. If you have a threat, they've always got to keep that eye on you all the time.
Right, I've heard this is back to your time at AC Milan when you came over. You've heard about that. I'm not really going to bother about the John Barnes myth thing where they thought they you've heard that a million times, but apparently you missed Rice Krispies when you went over there.
Oh, Rice, terrible. Well, I tell you, what's behind that was I get there and you're doing a photo shoot and all that sort of thing. You've got the kit on and you're doing all sorts of things on there too. And just towards the end of it, the conversation, the guy says to me, "So yeah, you're in AC Milan, and so is there anything that you miss about being, about not playing in England, being in England anymore?"
Yeah. And
I'm looking up. I'm in the San Siro. 100,000 people can get in this thing. This thing is like a Colosseum, the way it towers above you, and so I'm now at one of the biggest clubs in the world, and this guy's asking me, Milan, with all the fashion and all the various, he's saying to me, "Is there anything that I missed?" And realistically, no. So I thought, I've got to say something. And that's why I just said Rice Krispies. Can't get Rice Krispies. But of course you can get Rice Krispies. But, I said that. And that sort of stuck. And that's always been something people, porters and whatever, bring up from time to time.
Bring that up, plus the Barnes rumour.
Yeah. But, for me, you almost, the moment they start talking, it's coming, and you just wait for them to say this. Okay. They said, yes, they did make a mistake because John Barnes scored 33 goals that season. Oh no, he didn't. That was me.
By the way, but it's like when Johnny Barnes. If I ever get him on here, I'm gonna say, right, world in motion, straight away. Yes. So you can sing that, do the rap. Yeah, no, it's just the way it is. I don't think he even needs any payment to it. He just says, no, that's part of the gig. Ask all the questions, then it's the rap at the end. Textbook.
Yeah.
But what was the difference? It's probably a really stupid question. Yeah. What was the difference when you? The stadium obviously and the culture, but what about the players when you went over first to Milan? What was it like? You had like the Bareses, the Maldinis over there.
Yeah, Maldini was still probably two or so years, almost 3 years from getting in the Milan team. He was playing in their Primavera, which is their youth team.
Oh right, yeah. He started about 87, didn't he? So
yeah, that's right. So he started a little bit later. So when I went there, it was a case of I felt I would just see how it went, because you go there with a plan about how you're going to do everything, but until you get a feel of what it's like to play football there and the way they train and the way they prepare and all this sort of thing, before you can really get it in your head how you're going to. We worked hard in pre-season, I got fit and that sort of thing. And during pre-season, we played 5 games in pre-season. I scored 9 goals in pre-season. 5 games, and I thought to myself, I'm so looking forward to this, because if they play this way when we kick off, I'm just gonna score goals just like I did in England.
Yeah.
And but no, it wasn't like that at all. The moment the league started, it was rare that the ball went forward. The ball just kept going backwards and sideways, and it just frustrated the hell out of me.
Yeah.
What it did. So I don't understand how you can. I don't understand anybody can play football that way.
No.
You know, and so for me, if I'd been out there when Saki took over, it would have been perfect, because you think that's when we got players and all them, and they didn't go backwards and sideways.
No, you would have loved that.
And it would have been perfect. And he himself also said it, that, you know, that's the time that I should have been out there, because I would have just fitted in perfectly with the way they wanted to play the game. But when they're playing with no ambition of scoring goals, it's just let's keep the 0-0, and if we can nick it, we nick it. It's not the way to play football. No way. You know, you could sometimes, certain games, you count the touches at the end of it. You think to yourself, I think I only touched the ball like a dozen times in the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, when Saki came over there, I mean, the players. I mean, I remember. I don't remember too much of that era because I was about 9 or 10 at the time. But you had two eras. You had the Saki era, and then you had around Gattuso, when Inzaghi and players like that were there. You had those two massive eras where they, you know, the whole ethos is like, well, yeah, I know, not bad size, were they? But when you came over there was very much a stigma over in Italy, where it was very defensive football. And like you said, you barely got a touch, but then they moved it up a gear and played it to, like, say, your strengths, and played it to teams where actually, instead of going 1-0 and shutting shop, like you would have obviously witnessed during your time there, they actually said, right, okay, let's get 3 or 4 and really finish the game off.
Yeah, that's right. And that was a mentality that Saki was one that first came in and changed that.
Yeah.
And Italian football changed for the better for that. You know, and it wasn't an overnight thing. It took a good number of years for them to do that. So, that really is what they should have done. They should have adapted the way they were playing a little bit more to help me to do the thing I went there to do. And in fact, I ended up creating goals for other people rather than being the one that was scoring, because I only knew one way to play football, and that is to do everything you can to win it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's how I've been brought up. That's how I was at school, and that's how, you know, Graham's come in and, you know, sort of drum that into you. You know, you try and get as many shots, as many crosses, create as many opportunities for yourself and your teammates as possible. And that is how I've always looked at playing the game.
Mm. Well, you only spent 83, 84 there, and you came back just before the FA Cup final?
No, after. It was the following
after,
season.
was it?
For the new season, yeah, because I came back towards the cup final.
That's it, yeah.
And then I had to go back because we still had the semi-final of the Coppa Italia to play. We had Roma to play in the semi-final when we went back. So I had about 4 or 5 games still to play when I went back.
Right. Okay. Did you? It's a question as well. Did you get signed for $1 million, then came back for $500,000, or was it the other way around?
That's right. For 550 came back for.
What a bargain!
Yeah. Well, you know, when you think about it, you know, the goals that I scored 33 goals the season I left, and the season I came back, I think ended up scoring 18 or 19 in that season I came back. So it was almost like getting straight back on the horse and getting on with it, because, you know, as I said, you play for somebody who's got only one thing in mind: go out and win the game. Do everything you can to win the game. Cross it, get on the end of it, make chances, shoot, that sort of thing. And that is how I love to play football. Yeah,
well, like I say, you had a season in Milan, came back. It was like, but I bet you felt like slipping into your old slippers again, nice and comfortable. You came back, second spell, the goals still flowed. I mean, okay, like you would probably say, not as much as consistently as you did before. Not knocking you whatsoever with that way, but I mean, you're, like I say, I've seen you. I've had the pleasure of speaking to you before, and you're very brutally honest of how you got on your career. But you came back another two. You went to Bournemouth, had a lot of success there, and then you came back for another season.
Yeah.
Under Perryman. What difference was the club then to when, like I say, your other 2 spells? It's probably obvious to say, but
yeah. But I think the biggest thing was when I came back under Steve Perryman, the team itself was nowhere near a patch on what the teams that I played in.
Of course.
And I think that is the biggest denominator in the whole thing. When you have players such as initially, you've got your John Barnes, you've got your Nigel Callahan, you've got your supply line is quite incredible with those 2 players on the wing. And then, you know, you then come back and they don't have anything like that. So they have to try and play the game in a different way to try and create the goal. And you're trying to do that and compete with players that are up there with players that are only down sort of in the middle of the table, mid-table players, and you're trying to play away that the teams at the very top play, and you can't compete with them, which is another thing, again, I've learned, that you never play your opposition at their game. You've got to play them, you've got to find a way to get around them. And I thought we always tried, through that time, we tried to play them almost at their own game, because we tried to out-football them, and we didn't use the strength that you had in your team at place. And I think a lot of coaches maybe fall into this trap. Of course, everybody's got this notion now, you know, they don't want to be branded a long ball team, kick it and chase it. So everybody thinks we've got to pass it. And there's no terminology that I hate most than the ones when they say we play football the right way.
Oh, God.
There is only one way to play football, and that is the way that you win. And if you're winning, it's the right way to play.
Exactly. I completely agree. And I said this with Allardyce's teams, and even Pearson's to a certain extent. Okay, people won't agree too much at the moment because of our form, but, you know, especially Allardyce, he doesn't play the best football, but he got results. And
that's what you're in the game to do, you know. Yeah. And if you're winning, you'll find that ultimately teams may not copy everything that you do, but they will all copy elements of what you do, because they'll realise that in there, if they can add that to what they do, they'll be better for it. Yeah,
exactly. And like we already touched upon when Graham said, if it was that simple, everyone would be playing our way. But
yes, you need the players to play it.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, carry on. Sorry, Luther.
You need the players to play it. I think sometimes coaches, they all have this idea of what way they're going to play, and unless you can get the very best players, when that you're talking Liverpool, you're talking Man City, you're talking United and those, you can play whatever you want because you have the players that you can adapt it and let the players almost evolve into what you want them to be. By guiding them and pushing them in the right way. The rest of us, you need to play in a manner that suits what you have. You cut your cloth accordingly, and I don't think enough people do that. You know, because even people that, you know, they're not the likes of Pulis and people like that, but they play in a manner because of the players they have. They know they cannot compete in another way with the other teams around them. So they play the game in another way, where they strangle the game and spoil the game and try to upset the opposition and then pick them off if they get the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to play the game, and I think you play the game the way that suits what you have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you do. You could, because like you said, once those teams lose that fear against you, that's it. You're gone. You shouldn't be looking at playing against other teams. I think it's lack of confidence or lack of belief in your team. Because if you don't you don't tell your team basically, we play our way, we'll win. Right. A lot of teams don't do that. They sort of look too much at stopping this player and stopping this player.
Yeah, that's right. Graham's words were always, you know, when we have the ball, we play the game our way. We have no choice when the opposition have got the ball, because you have to play the game almost their way. But at the moment you win the ball, then you play the way that you want to play. You dictate the play. You dictate the game when you have the ball. I don't think enough teams think that way. They get the ball and they try to play exactly what the opposition are doing. And quite often they're better at that than you. Do you remember when we beat Tottenham 5-0 or 5-1 at their place? Yeah. And we got canned for it. And, you know, I remember, I think it was Jeff Powell in the Sunday Mail, whatever it was, paid Mail or whatever he wrote in. Part of his thing about the game was he got these upstarts from Watford that have come to Old White Hart Lane, and they have not given the chance. They've not allowed the likes of Hoddle, Ardiles, and all of those players. They've not allowed them to show people what they can do. Why the hell should we? If we do that, we go home.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, exactly. You're right. You know, what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to just let them have a few touches of the ball and say, okay, let them score.
Destroy it. Go on. Yeah, destroy it. No. So we went there, we imposed ourselves, and then we said, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to work your socks off right across the pitch. So we made them have to do the thing that no particular team really enjoys doing in this country, that's defending.
Yeah.
And you know, and what happens? They found wanting when they have to defend. And when the thing is, like Watford at the moment, when we have to defend on our back line consistently, ultimately it's going to get breached at some stage. And that's what we used to do to the opposition. We made sure that it was their back four or back five or whatever. They were the ones that had to do the defending consistently through 90 minutes. And that's when, you know, all it takes then is for somebody to have a lapse of concentration and just be the fraction out of position or not react in time for something, and then you punish them for it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you see us when we played Liverpool. I know a lot of people still dwell on it, and I look on that as like a yardstick. But when we attack sides, don't matter who it is, you get that sort of success because they don't expect it. They expect you to sit back and absorb pressure and stop their players. And like you said, you take that fear and take that fear to them, and you get that result.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, football is an attacking game, and another thing. You know, another Graham's wisdom again. You know, football is a forward passing, forward running game. That was his thing, because that's where you want to run. You don't want to be running backwards. You want to be always going that way, and that's what excites the crowd. That's what excites you as a player, as a coach, and whatever. Is that opportunity to go forward and get the ball into the area where you can hopefully score a goal, because the game is about scoring goals.
Exactly, like he said, the football's a simple game. It's for the man on the terraces. He wants to see goals, and they always say defend from the front. If the ball is not in our area, they've got no chance of scoring. So if you keep it up there as far as you can, much as you can, and he says the more chances we get, the more chance we've got of scoring. It's simple stuff, you know. Sort of like we say, Michael Owen commentary sort of time here, but it's obvious. It's silly, obvious stuff, but it seems to be lost. I mean, you've probably seen this. It seems to be lost on a lot of teams now. That all you need to do is just bang it in the box and let one of your strikers get on the end of it.
Yeah, but you need strikers that want to get on the end of it. I think there are less strikers now want to get on the end of stuff in the box than there has been for a long time. And one of the annoying things again, and there are lots of annoying things that annoys me about football, is when commentators, and a lot of them, you know, they come out and they say things, you know, in the modern game, strikers have to work hard to close people down. We've always had to work hard and close people down. All the best teams, they all do it. All their strikers work hard and close the opposition down. Ian Rush at Liverpool through that period, it worked and harried and closed people down. And then, you know, once people got to give the ball away, they've taken the ball out the back of the net. And it was a vital part of the game. So strikers have always worked hard. Yeah, they've worked one way.
Well, you thought that would be the thing they actually said that from the 80s. That's where they'd be getting the example from. Is that's when you did used to work hard and track them down. We thought it'd be a lack of it now, rather than them saying, well, they're starting to do it now. I don't understand that, because that's, you know, you guys were the first ones to really sort of start that ethos of closing players down. I thought it was more of a lack of it now than back in the day. You know, we'll say back in the day, but
we allow people to play. Yes, players are technically better. They're more comfortable when they get the ball now, but they still need to be put under pressure. And you watch it in games. When people are put under pressure, they're more likely to make a mistake when it happens again and again and again and again. And that's what you need to do. You need to keep questioning. It's that whole thing. You keep asking the question. Keep asking the question, and eventually they'll just hesitate for that moment with giving you the answer, and that's when you take advantage of it.
Yeah, exactly. I know you said recently. I don't know if this is true or not, but recently you offered your services, if needed, shall we say, to the Hornets if they ever needed you in the future. What do you think needs to change? Not saying that obviously you're picking out anyone particular, but what do you think needs to change as in the whole demographic? I know obviously most people say, well, we've got to win first. That's the first thing that needs to change. But what do you think needs to change more significantly first, defence or attack?
I think you look at the makeup of the team, and you know, we talk about it all the time. The supporters talk about it, and I get a lot of the cues from the way the supporters talk about football, because we must never forget that supporters like yourself and whatever, they watch their team, they watch football, they watch the game, and they understand the game. So when supporters are talking and they're debating and discussing points of what they've watched, you'd be an absolute idiot not to take some notice of it, because they sometimes see the little things or see something something that you almost take for granted.
Yeah.
You don't give it a lot. Have a look at that. And for me, you look at the Watford team at the moment, and we are not. We're not. I mean, especially with Delafeu out the team at the moment.
Yeah.
You look at it. How are we going to create an opportunity? The one thing Delafeu did, with frustrating he may have been,
Yeah.
but he would cause the opposition to take notice of where he was and what he was doing. You know,
Yeah.
and
Ask
that
questions.
is something we now don't have in the team.
No,
Yeah.
I think as well. Yeah, no, you're right. And also, we always, when you look at how well we have played, even without Delafeu in there, we need a player that we can basically build the team around. I.e., we tried it with Troy. As great as a greater leader and a great player he is, but when Sarr plays well, the team get that attacking emphasis to push forward, and we look more dangerous and like you said, even when Delafeu was playing well. As frustrating as he is, like you say, he asks questions of the opposition.
He does. And the one thing that we don't possess in the middle is legs to go beyond people. And you see, when you're playing, if you're playing and you've only got one striker, that striker has got to have. He's either got to be one of those natural goal scorers that finds the positions in the box that can do stuff, or he's got to be someone that can combine being that person who can play up and play off, and also the one that says, yeah, I'm coming short, but I actually want the ball behind him this time. And we don't have anybody that can do that. I think Welbeck is somebody that can do that because he is quick, Welbeck.
Yeah.
He is quick, and people need to maybe get off his back a little bit and recognise that he's somebody who's had a lot of injuries when he needs to keep playing. He needs to keep playing. He needs game time. And those little things about his game will come back because he's quick. He understands the game. He knows where the goal is. Because anybody that doubts that, Sir Alex Ferguson would quite often play, well, most of the time he played him always, and sometimes left one or two other players out. He thought, I can't believe he's left him out, because he knew what he would give him. He knew that he would track. He knew he'd get beyond people. He would fight and that sort of thing. He knew what he would get from him, and he could rely on him. So we need to trust people like that. And I think when you play one up, you need to have the option for that one man up front to not only be somebody who can play off, they need to be somebody who can play beyond. You look at Vardy. Vardy can play up off Vardy, but invariably when you need it, and the opposition to say we're squeezing up to the halfway and they've left that space, that's when you want to put it. Because once you put the ball in behind him and Vardy goes and he gets away from you, the next thing in your mind is we can't push up that far. We've got to drop off. And when you drop off, you get that space between midfield and the defence. That is when you can then have that space to play in to cause them more problems. And that is something that we don't really have enough of. Sarr could be that person, but he's not. That is not his natural position to play in the middle. Can give you to do a job there. He needs to do a job there with somebody.
He needs to be playing on the wing, pretty much.
Yeah, he needs to be playing on the wing. But I think also what they need to do is not always tie him down to the wing. He needs to sometimes be able to come off that wide area and pick balls up. A little bit like the way Liverpool allows their wide strikers to do. They come off the wing sometimes and pick balls up in those areas, which surprises people because I think, Christ, he's in there now. So that makes them narrow, creates the space and the overlap so you can get round them with your fullbacks and your wide midfield players to then, to get at them. And I think we just need to, it's just another dimension you need to have. And it's something that takes a little bit of time to work at and, stay up. And it's something we can add to our play for next year, I think.